Don't make fun of his face. It's just his face.
I'm sorry.
He can't do anything about that. Hello and welcome to Keeping Runners on the Road. I'm Dr. Cameron Garber here with Dr. Mark Humbert, and we are from Body Smart, where we like to help keep runners on the road. That's our goal. And so we bring you this episode to talk about the Masters Runner and recovery for the Masters Runner. So let's define a couple of things. The Masters Runner is basically somebody that has been around the block maybe a few hundred times. And so the Masters Runner is kind of older adults, but not quite always Medicare age, but as we're getting up there in age. How would you define that?
So that's the interesting thing.
Is there clear cutoff or not?
Not necessarily, right? So you have some, it ranges from like 35 to 45, depending on like what federation, what group that you're talking to. But I think the idea with it is just there's some considerations that we want to take into effect that come into play just as we start aging.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, right after a certain point, our bodies gotta go on the downward trend instead of getting stronger and stronger.
Well, it's something we have to fight against.
Yeah,
so we see all the time. We were just talking about this with another patient. We see people hitting PRs and actually running better in their 40s and 50s than they did in their 20s and 30s. It doesn't mean you can't perform well and be a really quality athlete, but there are some considerations that you need to make in your training and how you do things to make sure that you can stay healthy and maintain the kind of loads that you need to for running as a Masters athlete. Recovery becomes increasingly important, kind of what we wanted to hit today. But so over the next little while, we're actually going to talk more about training for the Masters athlete. We are seeing that as a really growing group within the running community that actually there are a lot of people that maybe ran when they were younger and are getting back into it. And so it's really fun to see people want to live that active lifestyle, even as becoming kind of older adults. And so
and I think some of what we want to do is de-norm some of the norms around aging, because there's some really harmful and negative language around that, right?
So much.
That disempowers people and gives them this, this framework, this story that, you're getting older, you can't do as much, you shouldn't do as much, yada, yada, yada.
It's bad for your knees.
It's bad for you. Oh, yeah, that's one of our big ones.
Yeah.
But the message that we want to share is that we can live a fit and healthy and active and good lifestyle our entire lives.
Right.
So much age is really just a number. It's more about the lifestyle habits that we're adopting, and especially like the length of time that we develop those habits after.
Right.
We just so many things that we associate with old age aren't really due to old age. They're due to living a sedentary lifestyle. They're having a poor diet, having poor sleeping habits, having poor stress habits, or coping strategies.
Right. The more you move, the more you can move.
Yeah.
And the more you run, the more you can run. So we hear all the time like, I had to stop running for this or that. Or that's actually one of my favorite questions to ask people is like, when did you stop running? And you hear some really sad stories. Unfortunately, people feel like they should stop when they have some pain or when they, and in my opinion, it's the opposite. If you have pain while running, you probably should run more to try to find out if you can build your body up. And running doesn't seem to be causing all of the problems that we think that it is. Doesn't cause arthritis. In fact, can be protective against arthritis. We just need to run according to our bodies. And so that's why we recommend, getting checked out and having somebody kind of help guide and coach your running journey so that you can run according to your body and keep running.
Mm-hmm.
But we see all the time that language of, like Mark said, disempowering language that tells you that you shouldn't keep running, that you shouldn't move, that you shouldn't do those things. And really, I really believe in that theory, and there's a million ways to say it. Like a body in motion tends to stay at motion, a body at rest tends to stay at rest, or a rolling stone gathers no moss. However you want to say that for you, that makes sense. Like that idea that the more that we keep moving, the more that we preserve our ability to move. And so if we want to keep being able to be the grandparent that we want to be, or the parent that we want to be to teenagers, or we want to be able to keep running into our 50s, 60s, 70s. If you want to be that athlete that you've run alongside that you're like, how are you beating me? Like, this is crazy. If you want to be that person that makes younger people feel wussy as you get older, like the way to do that is just to keep moving. And I'm not saying push through pain or things like that. Instead, it's more when you have pain, the way you address it and address it immediately, and you keep moving despite pain, but just move in a way that helps you to fight that back off so that you can stay healthy and keep moving. That's the key. Yeah. And so sometimes you need some help or some guidance so that you can get past some of those roadblocks. We're happy to help here at Body Smart, but we definitely recommend that you find somebody that can help you stay fit, healthy, and active so that you can keep running. But really the evidence, part of keeping runners on the road, this video series, is we like to tie into some of the evidence that is out there in the running world. And most of it points towards the fact that running actually is protective to our joints, it's protective to our health, our lung function. It honestly is one of the best things you can do to avoid the severe symptoms with COVID. Yeah. Is maintaining your lung function. And so
huge effect.
Yeah, it's pretty wild to see, the average winning age of a lot of our races is actually getting older too, which is pretty fascinating. Yeah. That as people realize I can keep running at high levels or high intensities, even at older ages. We're seeing the Ironman being won by people in their late 30s, early 40s, or things like that, much more than we have before. And so pretty cool to see those athletes be able to perform even as they enter into maybe that masters category. And so honestly, to me, some of the masters category is more about how you think about yourself. I've seen patients and people that we've worked with hitting PRs well into their 50s, which is pretty awesome. To qualify for Boston, at 53 at a faster time than when you qualified for Boston at 35. Cool. That's so cool. Yeah. And so you don't have to slow down necessarily because you're getting older. Now, it definitely becomes a little bit more difficult, and we have to be smarter about it. And that's why recovery strategies are really important. So we wanted to touch on that today. Some of the factors that we really need to make sure we're taking care of as far as recovery, making sure that your slow runs are slow enough, that you're taking adequate time off at times. So at least 1 to 2 days a week of time off, or at least doing some cross training or some other things so that you're not pounding your body the same way at the same types of movements and things like that over and over again. But recovery strategies can really help. Other thoughts on recovery?
So I think you hit the nail on the head there, right? Is that your body can still adapt, it can still change. But yeah, if you end up going at the same intensity, doing the same patterns as if you were 20, you're just we tend to wear the body down, right? Yeah. And so again, not that the body can't adapt, it just needs a little bit more, right? Things change. Kind of up till we're 25, even to age 30, our bodies are geared more towards muscle building, right? Anabolic growth, right? Yeah. Versus catabolic, right? Catabolic is breaking down. After that, we start breaking down. So one of the interesting things that we find, so in untrained individuals, after about between 30 and 40, we lose about 1% of our muscle mass per year if we're not training. Right. And so that doesn't seem like a lot, right? Okay, I'm 30, right? But by the time you're 50, if that's 20%, 60, 70, right? You're getting into 30, 40, 50% if you've done nothing to train. Right. And so just being smart about that, right? Still having some resistance training in your protocol. We've harped on that a bunch. And then
everybody needs to lift heavy things.
Yes. Do it. And then again, another consideration as we age is having adequate protein intake. Yep. So we referenced this on another video, but as we age, we need more protein per meal to maximally stimulate protein synthesis. So it goes from about 20 grams in a given meal to maximally hit that when we're young. And as we start getting into 50s, 60s, 70s, things like that, it takes about 30 grams. And so just considerations like that. And so like Cameron said before, there's lots of recovery options, there's lots of strategies, but it really helps having a guide, right? Someone that can take a look at your unique body, your unique situation, and give you a plan and help prepare you to make the best out of all of your years. Yeah. And keep running strong into your 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s.
Yeah.
Because it really is possible, right? We see people do it all the time. It's just about treating your body well, giving time for recovery, and being smart about how you fuel your body and how you put stresses on your body.
Yeah. And honestly, if you do that right, and it takes some work to experiment for you what's going to be best. If you do that right, though, and you make sure that you keep moving, but take adequate time to recover, get adequate nutrition, adequate hydration, adequate rest, adequate treatment when you have the niggles, right? And get that treatment early. That's something we can't emphasize enough.
Early intervention.
Early intervention. Honestly, if you can get help within hours to days, then your recovery is usually days to weeks. If you get help in weeks to months, your recovery is months to sometimes years. So if you've been dealing with a nagging injury for a couple of years, it's often going to take months and months to sometimes a year or better to recover from that. And so get help early. Don't linger with a nagging issue, or you really will find that sticks with you for a lot longer. And so that's one of those recovery things that we talk about, especially in the Masters athlete. The longer you wait to get help with it, the longer it's going to bother you. And then the solutions too are usually a little bit more drastic. Then you're talking surgeries or other things like that. Whereas if we had nipped that in the bud right away, it could have been just a few exercises and maybe a little change to your gait or switching up your shoes or whatever. And we may have been able to solve that if we get in there early enough. So those are some of the tips that we have. We love, again, helping keep runners on the road. And part of this emphasis on the Masters athlete over the next little bit is going to be, we want to help keep you on the road for the next 10, 15, 20 years, and not just right now. And so hopefully some of these messages will help you as a runner, especially as a Masters athlete, or those who will become a Masters athlete, which is hopefully everybody, that you'll keep moving and keep needing some of these tips because you will stay on the road and keep moving. So thanks so much for joining us here on Keeping Runners on the Road. Make sure to like, follow, subscribe, and share to somebody that you know needs this message. And we will love to see you on the next episode. Thanks so much, and we'll see you.